This episode is brought to you by Soultaker Fightwear, proud partners of the Jiu Jitsu Lou podcast. You're listening to the Jiu Jitsu Lou podcast, and I'm Lou Temlett. I know you're having a good day because either you've been on the mats, considering getting on the mats, or maybe you're bored of lifting weights in the gym. I'm so happy you're here listening or watching this episode. Please don't tap out before the end. When you want to equip everyone in your local area with jiu-jitsu, start training jiu-jitsu. I'd like to welcome Sean Brewer to my podcast. Sean, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Lou. How are you?
Very good, thank you. And thank you for connecting, because it's always great to speak to people you've never met before, but you sense a connection. What was it that drew you to kind of connect with me for the podcast?
I just felt like it's good to connect with people who are doing good things in the industry. And I also think that we're all like, there's this old school way of thinking. I think in jiu-jitsu where people still feel like everyone's rivals and you should be doing your own thing in a corner of the industry and keeping your secrets to yourself. I just think we should all be connecting more. Every gym, like people doing podcasts, people selling merchandise. I just think we're all one big collaboration, and getting our heads together can really help to grow the sport if we all pull in the same direction.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned listening to Amy Devan's episode a couple of weeks ago. What did you think of that episode?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I think it's nice to see people doing, again, such good work for the community. I think what Amy's doing with the camps, with the women's only stuff, I think the gym looks amazing aesthetically as well. So it's just nice to see people popping up all over the place where, you know what I mean, all these different places to train and bring people to the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just about bringing a new generation of people that may never have tried it before. Certainly when I went up to the women's camp a few months ago, I'd never met anybody else that was there, apart from Amy, of course. But it's just the ease of being able to talk to people, all having a shared goal, a safe space to kind of train, and going away with potentially lifelong friends.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's what this sport is. This sport is about connecting with people. You can't do it on your own. You can have a go at trying to do it with a dummy, but I think everyone knows, like, it's not a long-term training solution. Every minute of jiu-jitsu training is done with another person. And I think that's one of the main things I love about this sport is the community that it brings, the connections you can make on and off the mats. And being able to do that and find people that are like-minded in different camps and different gyms and going and cross-training in places. I think that's where this sport really thrives.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned about kind of people having a fresh mindset rather than an old school kind of mindset within jiu-jitsu. What makes the way that you operate your gym and your vision, because obviously you run Resilience Jiu Jitsu in Liverpool.
Yeah.
What makes your, maybe not different, but what sets you apart? What, maybe what is different?
The gym I started at was a good gym. There was a lot of people there, but we were never really encouraged to go and cross-train with other people. It was, why would you need to go outside your gym when everything you need was here, sort of the mindset. And it wasn't until I moved house and then moved to a different area and then found the gym that was closer, which was a lot smaller, but it was sort of encouraged to go and find rounds in different places because they didn't know what your game was, and it was the closest thing you were going to find to competition, to put hands on someone from a different gym that you don't know even what belt rank they are, to then test yourself against someone different. And it was encouraged, which was refreshing to me, because we used to, in the first gym that I trained at, we had an open mat on a Friday, but it was only for the members, which to me, that's not an open mat, that's a closed mat. An open mat should be for people from different gyms to come to. So I do the same with mine now. I try and go and visit a lot of different gyms. I try and see a lot of people's. I like to see different gyms to see what the gyms are like. I like to meet different people. I like to see the different teaching styles, the different styles of rolling. And we've got a couple of gyms around us where we have our guys go to, on their open mats or their early morning classes, because I think it's good for people to mix it up. And I think it's only if you're worried people are going to go and find something else better outside that you would discourage that. And I don't, because I know we've got an amazing community of people. I think we've got, really good level of teaching on the mat, 7 different coaches. I think we've got a good facility. So I'm more than happy for people to go and train elsewhere, because again, it's about becoming the best version of yourself to black belt, rather than trying to keep all your secrets in-house. It's not the way of growing the sport.
Yeah. I have just returned from Kent, helping Moogie out with Matt Masters Invitational, the under-18s Invitational.
Nice.
There was some epic young people coming through, just seeing them in the warm-up space. I got the chance to have a chat with Spencer Hewitt, who's previously been on the show, and just his vision for supporting these young people through to adulthood in their competition, and being, known for, so many European and worldwide champions in jiu-jitsu out of the UK. I was kind of heartwarmed and was like, oh my gosh, this is real. This is incredible work. But equally, you say about visiting open mats, I was able to take me and the kids. We went to Ascend Jiu Jitsu. We went to Core Jiu Jitsu. We didn't quite make it to Studio Martial Arts. We will next time we're over in Kent. But just, I'm interested for your view and how you interpret different teaching styles, because sometimes we get quite fixed in our mindset, and we like the way that we're taught in a certain way. But when we go to other classes or open mats that have a bit of coaching, it's how we find a way to level out our frustration or whatever it is that is not so positive in being part of that environment. So from a coaching perspective, give me your thoughts.
So firstly, just on the kids stuff, what you've just said then as well, I think that's going to be when the sport really pops, because we didn't, from the people that are now teaching and have got their own academies, they probably didn't start as kids. We started when the sport started getting popular 10, 15 years ago. Now we've got a kids program at my gym that we've been doing for the last 12 months. There's 3-year-olds that are scrambling all over the mat, and it's crazy to watch. But imagine the 25-year-olds and the 30-year-olds, if they started scrambling and doing bear crawls and doing technical stand-ups at the age of 3, I think that's when the level and the ability really goes through the roof. So that's one of the things I'm most excited about in the sport. Secondly, when you mentioned about the coaching thing, I just think the true mindset in jiu-jitsu, and it's cliche, but it's true, is that you should always have the white belt mindset, and you should always be wanting to do that. I just think you should, I try and apply that to coaching as well. So rather than to just assume I know it all, or that the way I was taught was the best way, and to just sort of make a carbon copy of that, I like to go and see how other people are teaching, see how they structure the class, see how they command the room, see what techniques they teach, but also it's all of the other things outside of the technique that is being taught that is involved in coaching. And as well, I like to be a student. So when I'm in the gym, 90% of the time, I'm the one leading the room or doing all of the coaching. So it's nice when I get to go and do a class with one of my mates in one of my friends' gyms in Manchester, or even further afield with people I've never met. It's nice to be a student for that hour and to just act and to just be on the other side of the coin, to be able to take in some stuff. Because even when you're rolling with students, sometimes as a coach, what they don't realise is when you're rolling with them, I'm not ever trying to smash anyone. I'm getting data from every roll. I'm trying to see where you're at. I'm trying to give you little opportunities to see whether you're going to take it. I'm trying to see how you are in comparison to the last time you rolled. I'm getting all this data from a roll with one of my students. Whereas when I get to go and do it externally, I just get to roll, you know what I mean? I just as a student, which is nice. So it's good to be on the other side of the coin.
I love that. I was rolling with a black belt at the weekend, and a number of black belts actually, which is always a pleasure, but a little bit scary sometimes. They were just kind of trying out different techniques and how I would then escape or kind of work around that thing.
That's the way that it should be.
when you're talking about kind of, coaches collecting data, they're like, okay, how does this kind of strand of learning, how would they deal with this? How would they unpick that? So it's really quite interesting when the coaches are asking questions of the student, and like you say, we're all learning, and it's just that connected kind of environment where we can train and learn and train.
I think this was in something external that I'd done something different, but it was like a yoga teacher that I was speaking to, and he was saying his philosophy was that everyone's a student, everyone's a teacher, so you can get any lesson can be taught from anyone. And I think there's a lot of coaches that think they're the pinnacle of the gym, and they're the only ones who can give the answers, and there's no way that they could learn from anyone else. And I just think everyone, it's the collaboration. You can learn something from everyone. And I think for me, when I roll with people, I try and meet myself at the level that they're at. So if I roll with a blue belt, there's techniques that I'm, in my opinion, high level at, but then there's also techniques that I neglect. So if I'm rolling with someone who's a blue belt, I'll then work on the techniques I'm lacking at, which also means they get a better chance of rolling because I'm not rolling with my brown or black belt techniques, I'm rolling with my blue belt techniques.
That's
they
so
get a
nice.
better chance to roll with me, and then we're sort of at the similar sort of level of being able to, do you know what I mean? I'm trying to meet someone at their level rather than always trying to roll as a brown belt. I just think it's you can get something out of every role, and if it gives them a chance to find little openings and letting people work as well, I just think it's the death of the ego that we should all be aiming for. It's if someone gets you in a position because how deep can you go into a submission and then work yourself out? I just think there's so many different ways you can try and build your skill set with everyone who you roll with.
It's so good. And I think we all learn in different styles, whether it's the kind of, the quiet conversations at the side of the mats when we're watching other people kind of rolling or, sparring, how you can interpret that into your own game. But there are so many, kind of different styles of learning that we should be open to all of them at any point in time. But know our preferred style, maybe.
Well, with this sport so early on in its inception, isn't it? Because if you look at like sports like football and rugby, and even like in America, like freestyle wrestling, they've been going for so much longer. So their coaching styles are so much more advanced than what ours are. So it would be dismissive to think that the sport being so young that we've cracked it in terms of coaching, and that's why I think we should always, as coaches, be coming through it different ways and maybe taking things from other sports of how we can enhance our students, and also like be brave about it. Like don't think what will the gym round the corner think about me because they've got a fourth degree black belt, and they might sort of look down the nose of us trying to do it a little bit different. I just think it again, the goal of any coach should be to grow the sport, and we're not trying to fight over the same slice of pie as someone else in the area. We should be trying to make the pie bigger. We should be trying to do things to make it more accessible for new people. Maybe make it so that it's not as intimidating to walk through the door, so that then we make the pie bigger for everyone, and then it can be one of them sports where it's included in PE in schools, just as standard. There's one in every few people. It's like in Liverpool, one in every a certain amount of people has boxed or has got boxing in the family, and it's just sort of standard that people have got that level of learning in the family, or that's the sport that they're connected to. Why can't that be jiu-jitsu as well? It's so good for kids in self-defense. I just think why isn't that a part of it?
I think it can be, but you kind of mentioned about it not being intimidating. I'm going to confess, before we started recording, I washed my makeup brushes yesterday, and it doesn't quite apply the right level of coverage. Anyway, some of us might know, going into department stores or makeup brands, approaching this, I'm talking about the 90s and early 2000s, being quite intimidated by the amount of makeup and the kind of intense beautification of people that were helping us choose our makeup and skincare and things like that. And it feels like it's kind of leveled out, where it's not quite so intimidating. It's more accessible to so many people. And I think social media is one of those things that have broken down the barriers. I've managed to clear out my algorithm, but I don't now have makeup tutorials and various other things going on. But it's just having that dilution and the accessibility of content that draws people in, more people to be interested in, obviously makeup, skincare, but equally within jiu-jitsu and the kind of community that should be for everyone. Because at the beginning of this episode, I shared your intent to kind of support everyone learning jiu-jitsu in your area, no matter who they are, for whatever skills. But before we continue with the coaching bit, I'd really like to explore how you came into jiu-jitsu and your journey a bit more, Sean.
Yeah, pretty boring way to start, to be fair. I just wanted to find a more engaging way to train. I was just felt so bored going to the gym and lifting weights and going on a treadmill because
Yeah.
there was no accountability. It was so easy to just get to not go to the gym if I didn't feel like it. There was no one being like holding me accountable, and also I felt like I wasn't like learning. I love to learn, and I think that's what drew me to jiu-jitsu. So when I first started, I felt like I wanted to go every day because if I didn't go on Wednesday, everyone who went on Wednesday had learned something that I wouldn't. And I
Ah,
didn't like that people were gaining more knowledge. So as well as the fitness aspect of it and instantly like the connections that you get from it, I just wanted to know everything about it. And I just thought there was such a deep ocean of knowledge to learn
yeah,
that you don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that there isn't in, strength and conditioning and there's so much to learn about that and you know what I mean, the body
yeah,
composition and everything like that. It just wasn't as engaging to me as being able to learn how to attack or to defend and reverse a position from these little tiny like micro movements that your body was doing that could get you in or out of danger. It was so
yeah.
interesting to me.
That's yeah. So that was the obsession, maybe when you
100%.
started
I
training.
knew that it was a passion from the start, and also I
Yeah,
think what you're saying as well with the intimidation thing, that's a big aspect
yeah,
of what stops people. And I find that loads of times that we get loads of people inquire and don't quite make it through the door
yeah,
because of the old school stigma of 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they were all cage fighting gyms. That's what they were known as. And it was
yeah,
people who were fighting on these bare knuckle shows. They were in a backstreet gym and that the lights didn't work. And it was one of them places. And the people who were training were people who were like Dorman and people like that who were trying to do it to actively defend themselves.
yeah,
And I think now what our jobs are, and it's good to see a lot more of it. And I know that we've had a lot of success with it, is to make it more accessible for people to start. So like beginners courses, camps, stuff like that, that make it a bit more accessible because it used to be that if 10 people started, 10 people inquired,
yeah,
everyone would turn up and you batter them. And the ones who stayed, who could take it, were the ones who, stayed it out and they showed they were tough enough to be able to make it.
yeah,
Whereas for me, I think then there's 7 people who've then gone away and never looked at it again because it was too intimidating or it was exactly what
yeah,
they thought it was going to be. I just think if you get 10 people who want to start the sport, we should find a way of making the barrier of entry easy for all 10 of them people. Because
yeah,
if they've thought about it and they've inquired and then they've gone to do a class, why have they not stayed?
yeah. Community spotlight on Resilience Jiu Jitsu. Resilience is a No Gi Jiu Jitsu club built around the idea that progress isn't always straightforward and that some of the most important lessons in grappling come from learning how to keep moving forward when things get tough. The team has created a supportive environment where people can challenge themselves, develop their skills, and train hard while staying true to the values that make Jiu Jitsu such a powerful community. It's a club doing things its own way, with a clear focus on growth, perseverance, and helping people become more capable both on and off the mats. You can find out more at resiliencejujitsu.co.uk or follow at resilience.jiu-jitsu on Instagram. This is the Jiu Jitsu Lou podcast with me, Lou Temlett, coming to you from the UK. Keep checking out the clips that drop as soon as I've recorded an episode, usually way before the episode goes live. And as always, please go and subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whichever platform you listen or watch. I'd really love to hit 1,000 subs on YouTube in 2026. Today, I'm having a conversation with Sean. forgive me, Brewer. Sean, okay. You spoke a bit about your blue belt, things that happened from your blue belt on that made you, I guess, who you are today.
Yeah. So I was teaching a class at Blue Belt in the gym, and I loved it. I was the one that put myself forward to do it because in the gym that I was at previously, we didn't have a fundamentals program, and it was just we had like 3 classes a week. You know what I mean? We only had a small amount of members. This is the gym that I moved to, and I just wanted to try and teach and spread my legs and see whether I could do it because I was interested in. People were asking me questions who just started, and I thought it'd be good to give it a go and to offer something different. And then I had an issue with Crohn's disease for years before that, and then it got to a point where it got that bad that I had to have an emergency surgery and get 90% of my bowel removed. Like literally, it was within 3 days it happened.
Wow.
Got told I was getting a stoma bag. So then, and was told in the hospital that I was never going to be able to train again. It was just, I would never be able to put my body under the physical demands of being able to roll. So then, after being training for 6 years and in hospital with like a 9-week recovery time, I had a lot of time to reflect. And this is one of them where it's like, do you just turn away from the sport or do you find a way of still being involved in it? And I loved it. I loved it. So at that moment, I decided that instead of being able to compete, which I was doing regularly at white and blue belt, or whether I just went down the coaching route and it meant then I could still be involved in the sport without maybe the physical demands. So then while I was in hospital recovering, I was watching all instructionals, I was reading books on coaching. That was my way of motivating myself to get better because I had this goal to walk towards of being able to become a coach. And then I'd come out, I can roll now. I've competed since, I've been promoted twice since I've had the operation. I feel better, faster, stronger than what I ever have because of the motivation I had to do it. But coaching then become the priority for me and being the best version of it. And certainly not like a polished version, the complete version because of having the white belt mindset. But I just want to be the best at it and growing the gym and the sport and teaching it to kids and adults and women and everyone having a base level of jiu-jitsu in anywhere near my gym is now the priority. But that was good. That was sort of where the name from the gym come because we then had, the same old story, gym fallout, whatever, people who didn't agree. We wanted to go in a different direction. People asked me whether I would be open to taking over the gym if the opportunity had arisen. I'd wrote it on a goal list of mine a couple of years before that I would be interested in it. Yeah. The opportunity sort of fell on my lap, but then we needed a rebrand. And because of the adversity we've been through as a group with the previous owner, because the adversity that I'd been through medically and my business partner had a shoulder reconstructive surgery, we felt like the name Resilience Jiu Jitsu was only fitting because of the turmoil that everyone had been through. But it's also like the number one mental skill that you need in Jiu Jitsu because anyone who's done 6 months of training knows that you've got to be a little bit resilient to be able to get through the first stage and then start getting better after that. So
we could absolutely call it resilience. Some of us would say 100%. That it's sheer determination and just stubbornness. And I think that there's something in that. And it sounds great, everything you're doing now. But what have been the biggest challenges, Sean?
There's a lot that goes behind running a gym that you don't think of. It's just in my head I thought I'd just be able to train more. It's not, if anything, it's having to train less. All the logistics, do you know what I mean? It's the planning the classes, setting up the curriculum, liaising with all the different coaches, do you know what I mean? It's making sure that people are improving and you've got to keep an eye on everything. And the more members that you get, the more people you've got to keep an eye on. You've got to make sure no one feels like they're being lost and they're not being given, if they're plateauing, what they need to do. But to be at the helm of it and to be able to put all these things in place, I don't think any of it is a negative. I just think it's all separate challenges. Yeah. And the reason why I put myself in this position was because I wanted to be in the position to solve the problems and to be able to push it going forward. And it's also like the creative ideas, which we spoke a little bit about at the start, like the being able to try new things and to do it. Like, we've got a kids program. We're all no gi. We don't do any gi at the gym. We did toy around with a gi class for a little bit, but being like one of the no gi specific places in the area, I think, is where we sort of shine. And rather than spreading ourselves across different disciplines, we just wanted to go all in with one and push it. And we graded the kids not that long ago. We ran the kids program a year ago. And obviously the kids don't wear a gi, so then should they get a belt is the argument. And then I give belts out to the adults to show where they're at and to give them the checkpoints along the way. But then people from outside were saying you can't grade kids if they're not in the gi, and it was one of them where I was toying with it, and then I started worrying about what other people thought rather than actually giving the kids the rewards that they should have been doing, because they're at that level and they've been doing it long enough to be at that belt. So then, instead of worrying what another gym owner thought about me or us as a place, I just started giving the kids the belt that they deserve, even though they've been training for 18 months anyway. So giving the kids the stripes and being able to bring the parents into the gym was one of the best days that we've had, the kids grading, and they all loved it and they all shared it. And since then we've had loads more parents start, and I just think it's being brave if you're a gym owner, and if you're coming through and if you of the younger generation. I just think it's being brave, and if you think that that's right in your gut and that's what decision you want to make because it improves people or enhances the community, do it, and don't worry about what other people think.
I love it. I love this attitude, Sean. And I just want to kind of go back and thank you for sharing your stoma story just a little bit. But one of the things I have noticed, putting you a bit on the spot, is that you're really happy to talk about your gym and all of the challenges around the gym. But how about your personal challenges on the back of that operation? Because you, out of everyone, sounds and feels like you have become the most resilient. But it can't have been that easy. And I know we all get into a mindset and an action kind of sequence of just doing these great things. But I want to hear more about some of those challenges for you.
It was tough, and I'll be honest, I haven't really spoke to anyone about this, so it was difficult. I had a scar that ran from the top of my chest to my belly button. I had staples in it. The recovery was really, really hard. I couldn't sit up out of bed. It took my partner to be able to get me out of bed for a long time after it. All I had in my head was that I wanted to be able to get back to the mats. So they told me I wouldn't roll again. After 9 weeks, I had my first roll, and I was rolling with a friend who was, really careful and gentle. And don't get me wrong, having a stoma, it does have its challenges, and I always have to make sure that I've got like a sort of cup that goes over it, and there's things that I do to protect it. It is something that I do have to have an extra thought of it, but at the same time, it's hard to highlight the negatives of it when I live a better life since, because before it, I was sick so often. I could never get any momentum with training because there was some days I just couldn't get out of bed. So although it's an inconvenience and it's something I've 100% got to work around, now I live a much better life. I like the relationship I've got with training is more consistent. My family life, my kids get to see a lot more of me now. I'm fitter, faster, stronger than what I've ever been. So although it was difficult, everyone in jiu-jitsu's had some, and it's not like my story's harder than anyone else's, because if you've been training long enough, you've had an injury that made you question whether you could come back or not. You know what I mean? My business partner, Alti, he had shoulder reconstructive surgery. His arm only moves in certain ways. Some days the day after training, he can't move his arm, and that story is so similar to a lot of people who train in sport. And the reason why we carry on is because we love it so much. So although I have had personal challenges and that was the most difficult time of my life, it's no different to a lot of other people, and it's just another speed bump in the road to becoming the best version of me as a I wouldn't say athlete, but as a practitioner and a coach. And it's just, life's about problem solving. Life's about how you react to things, and everyone's going to have a curveball. No one gets out alive. So there's always going to be something that you have to deal with. And the makings of a person isn't what's happened to you. It's how you turn it around afterwards and how you come out of it on the other side.
Sean, you are so inspirational. I do want to honour you and you sharing the story, because some of the challenges that we have are left unspoken, and equally on the mats, we are just other human beings, and we are, training and sparring and rolling with each other. But there is always a story, which is what kind of brings me so much joy in speaking to people like you on the podcast, because there's always something really special and something that all of us can take away and be inspired by. You talk about problem solving. For me, it sounds like you're not just problem solving; you're offering solutions to
Yeah.
everything that comes your way, and you're doing it with a great heart and good intent, which is just amazing.
Yeah, I just think that's what it's about. That's what brings us all together, because resilience, as the gym name and as a word in itself, that's what brings us all together. Because whether you've had to deal with some adversity with, maybe someone's had a really close family member that's just died, or they're struggling with mental health, or they're going through a divorce, or you've had like hospital issues, no one is going to go through life and not have these things. And whether you've had it, whether you're going through it now, whether it's coming up in the future, or whether you've had it historically, that's what brings us all together. That's what makes us all the same. And having the space and the place to train and the acceptance of, you know what I mean? You're going to go through stuff, but we're all here together to share the same goal, and everyone's equal on the mat, whether you're a Fortune 500 millionaire, billionaire, do you know what I mean? Or whether you're unemployed. Everyone is equal on the mat. It goes on your belt rank and the time you've trained and how much you give to the sport. So that's something, again, that we all share, and that's something that I'm a big advocate in my school, is that, like, I don't want anyone to feel like they couldn't come in and talk, or, you know what I mean, like, drop me a message if you're going through something, or if there's, you know what I mean, you're struggling with money this month, and, is it all right to just, I'd never cut it off because of payment date, or, you know what I mean, if you're going through something. I just think it's supposed to be the third place. There's like a social construct of a third place. Have you ever heard of that?
I have. I'm very familiar with the third place,
I just think
and I
it's so
make every gym that I visit my third place.
yeah, it should be. And I think that's the difference with jiu-jitsu and, martial arts gyms, and like the usual commercial, like, weights and treadmill gyms and stuff. It's just a transaction. You go in, you got 45 minutes to train, you put your headphones in, you don't speak to anyone. Maybe you're led on to someone across the gym that you've seen a couple of times. That's as far as it goes. Whereas this is more than that. We've got dartboards in the changing rooms. I want you to stay as long as you want. Do you know what I mean? Because if this is your escape and this is your chance to get a bit of headspace from the difficulties of normal life that you've got outside the gym, I want people to have this as their safe place.
Amazing. Sean, I want to talk a bit more about coaching and your desire to be the best coach possible, but taking inspiration from the US and other individuals that have coaching as a kind of black belt skill almost.
Yeah, they're a lot better than us, aren't they? Obviously, in America, it's a lot further on. There's a lot more of them. The gyms are a lot busier, and I just think there's a lot, again, because the sport is so early since its inception. The inspiration can come from anywhere. It could be one of the corners of, one of the American states. It could be from, I know Ash Williams is doing a lot of good work. I just think now we're all literally just having light bulbs of inspiration, and the inspiration that any of us could have could go further in terms of growing the sport. So I'm inspired by a lot of the guys in the Manchester gyms who are doing obviously good things. Stealth is obviously massive. I know Chewin, Stealth Bolton, he's doing a lot of good things. Steve Henshaw, the guy that I'm under, he's essentially like the head of the affiliation that we're in. I always try and take inspiration from Steve, because he's at the gym for a long time. He's also seen it all in the sport, and you can't deny the gyms that are full of killers. If you go to if you've got competition teams that are going to competition mats and doing team events, and the teams are cleaning up, they're obviously doing something right. That's not just guys getting together to roll. There's something going on there, and I think it's being able to go there and visit, see it from the inside, speak to the guys, train with them. You know what I mean? I just think there's a lot of good work that a lot of people are doing, and it's just about being open to there being something better outside of what you're doing.
Yeah.
We're building communities that are going to keep the members, but I think it's always being open to maybe there being a better way of doing it and bringing that in. I think that's where a lot of people lose some of the juice that's out there because they think their way of doing it's the best and other people are doing it wrong and should be doing it their way. That's when you miss out on some of the things that are out there that could essentially benefit you and your members.
Absolutely. Do you take any inspiration from coaches in any other sports? Earlier you mentioned kind of football and various other sports. Is there anything particular that you role model your coaching, not necessarily in the sport of jiu-jitsu, but your coaching style on any other sports?
I try and use a blend of how I was taught because it's also like sometimes big changes people don't like. So I think going from the consistency helps people digest it, but then also trying to bring in some of the sort of new ways of coaching now and the ways that people do from different sports where they sort of isolate the specific games and make it more task-based games is what I'm trying to play around with a bit more now. Yeah. So we do have a blend of both, and I know it's a bit of an argument at the minute, isn't it, of which way is the best way of coaching? Is it game-based? Is it technique demonstration? I just think like what we said earlier about there's not one size fits all and everyone learns differently. And if people are used to it being one way, making big, massive changes to your academy sometimes can damage that because then people feel like is it being a waste of everything you've learned up to this point? I just think it should be a mix of both because again, like kids in schools, there's so many different ways of learning and there's so many different ways of adaptation, how people take it in. I just think you've got to be willing to be able to blend them all together. But the books that I read is on coaching and how the body moves and how it affects games like tennis, football, rugby. It's about how the body moves and reacts to certain specific tasks or games rather than it being a specific sport. That's what I'm interested in. It's how you take instruction and how you put it into place based on the constraints or whatever that are put in front of you.
I love it. Do you have any resources that you would share with anyone else that is interested in being a coach in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu? I mean, I guess specifically No Gi in that sense.
It's all just books that I read, and it's all different to different sports. So the ones that are being recommended to me, Stian Shaw told me one about called How to Play the Inner Game of Tennis, and it's like backwards and forwards. But he said to me, when you're reading it, you can literally change the word tennis to jiu-jitsu, and it's near enough exactly the same. There's another one, How We Learn to Move by a guy called Rob Gray. His is again, it's about the scientific approach to body mechanics rather than specific sports. So it's just all stuff like that. But I only feel like I'm really early on in that process as well because I get imposter syndrome a lot, and I think it's normal to do it. And I read a quote that said, if you don't get imposter syndrome every like 18 months, you're not pushing yourself enough. But I just feel like I'm always questioning why I'm in this position and why there's 25 people looking at me in a class to teach them and that they've trusted me with their tuition. So if they're giving me the trust to be able to provide them with an hour of learning and I want my guys to be learning more than other people's classes or whatever, and I have like 7 different coaches in the gym and we have like a sort of playful rivalry of wanting to have the busiest classes and stuff like that. So it's about like, I always want to be pushing and I want everyone to learn as much as they can in the time that they're with me. So because of the imposter syndrome that I feel, I always want to make sure that I'm doing enough my end so you can trust in me that what I'm showing you, I've put the time into researching as well. I'm not just winging it. I'm not just turning up and showing something that works for me sometimes. And I've seen it once on YouTube 2 weeks ago. I've put the time into learning it and understanding it to be able to then portray it to you guys enough so that if you ask me a question, I can explain it to you as well.
That's one of the things that I find the joy when I'm asking coaches questions. I kind of sat back and reflected yesterday, actually, about their response, and they wouldn't be able to give me that response if they didn't have that depth of knowledge. Yeah. It's not a, oh, well, I don't know, just go and try it. It's a depth of knowledge that all of you that are coaches out there listening or watching have. And Sean, it really sounds like you've done the work and continuing to want to do the work.
But at the same time as well, I think it's okay to not have the answers, because I think this sport as well, a lot of people think, and this is where this sport's weird compared to other sports. And again, I seen Ash mention this on one of his posts. We're expected as coaches to be the best in the room, to be able to smash every single person, but also have answers to every question of every position that you find yourself in. But you don't find that in other sports, because in football, the manager probably isn't as good on the pitch as the worst player on the field, but they're the ones that have had the experience and the tactical knowledge to be the best and to guide the team. But in terms of going on, being able to play one-on-one with the best player on the pitch, there's no way they'd be able to do that.
See, I'm gonna counter that, because I don't feel, from my perspective, and maybe other people's perspective, that a coach is there to facilitate. I never for one moment believe that anyone anywhere has all of the answers, and it's just about being kind of understanding of whatever knowledge and learning anyone can offer to you to increase your own knowledge and learning.
Of course. And I think it's about as well, I think it's about encouraging your own growth, because we can give you we can sort of take you on the crash course of the positions and some of the fundamentals and the basics, but then for you to be able to bring something different and to develop your game, you need to do something that's not just on the curriculum. If you want to catch people with stuff in the gym and they've been to the same classes as you're going to know the same sort of technique. So for you to have something, maybe, a bit of a secret move that you want to try on people, it is about your own learning, and I do think we should try and encourage that. And if I don't know the answer, I'll tell you where to go to find it out, and I'll go, and I would want to find out so that next week when we come in, we can talk about it together. But I don't ever want to try and act like I have got all the answers, but I think it's nice to pull the thread as to find out, maybe if that way, if you don't go this way, maybe you go that way, we can both sort of find out where it goes together.
Well, that's great. Now, we also mentioned about your vision in kind of upskilling, supporting everyone in the Liverpool area with jiu-jitsu as a skill and ability, as you might, life skills. How are you continuing to go about this huge task?
Cool. Yeah, so this is probably where it's coming to light, where my perspective's changed probably in the last 12 months. Yeah. Since I've had the gym, is instead of just wanting to have the biggest No Gi program in Liverpool, I wanted to be I think everyone should have a basic level of jiu-jitsu understanding, because obviously, without going into it too much, on things on the news, the UK is it's becoming a scarier place, isn't it? Year on year, things are happening that people can't maybe ended up in situations, and it's always been like that anyway. But there's situations that can be put on you that you have to deal with in life, and you'd hope that it never happens. But it's nice to have the skill in case it does. It goes back to that old quote, doesn't it? You'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. So I think it's about having the skills so that if you ever do end up in a position, you're equipped. And having a young daughter, I've got a 4-year-old daughter, and obviously a partner. And I would hate to have my own jiu-jitsu school that I think does really good work, and anything happen to either of them in their life and them not be able to handle the skills. So my daughter's in the kids program. She loves it. She's been able. She can take down 5-6-year-old lads because of just using the fundamental skills of takedowns. And we're starting a women's program, which my partner is wanting to get involved in, because I just think, especially for women and children, there's going to be a situation that you're put in maybe in life, and to be the one that shows resistance, is going to be able to at least buy you some time, or to put them off, because people who are doing it and putting you in situations, they don't want to fight with resistance. They want the easy battle. So to be able to have that, even just hand fighting, grip fighting, getting someone off, mount escapes, basic level. And that's why I'm so passionate about taking it into schools, teaching it to kids from a young age, teaching it with women's programs and stuff. And if everyone thought of jiu-jitsu or self-defense like they do about when you teach your kids about riding a bike and going swimming, I just think there'd probably be less incidents on the streets, because we all had stuff. And why do you teach kids to swim in case they ever fall in the pool on holiday? Why don't we teach kids how to defend themselves in case they ever have someone who tries to, pull something on them in a dark alleyway? It's just, it's crazy that
Yeah.
Now, after being in the sport for so long, there's so many people who confidently think they can defend themselves and they've never ever been taught about fighting.
Yeah. One, I just want to kind of reflect on that. But one of the things that I've learned more so out of jiu-jitsu is to kind of, calm down the situation, and leave the situation without
Yeah,
any altercation at all.
100%.
And I had an incident. I was helping someone that, a cyclist had driven across her pathway in her car. The cyclist then started to get really angry. I went to I was just walking past, and I was making sure that the driver was okay. And the guy came up to me and started to have an argument. I just walked away the other direction, and everything just went away. And I was really grateful for that. But actually, in the heat of the moment, without some of that jiu-jitsu knowledge and trying to de-escalate a situation, it could have got really quite horrible.
I think it's
And it
knowing
didn't.
inside you, isn't it, that you've got the
Yeah.
skills to be able
Yeah.
to defend yourself, and it gives you that it gives you this inner layer of confidence that comes with it. Because one, you don't realize until you start jiu-jitsu how helpless you actually are, because you train with someone who's been training for 6 months, and you feel like you can't get in and you can't do anything with them. So it's only when you start you realize how helpless you actually are. And then once you've trained for a little bit, because you know then that you've got this skill that other people don't have and how helpless they are without realising it,
Yeah.
it gives you this inner layer of confidence. My proudest moment in the gym is we had one of our 6-year-olds, and he's not even that consistent. He trains intermittently, but he's been probably coming for a year, but he's not like twice a week, every single week.
Yeah.
Ellis, and he come in one day, and his dad went, "Tell Sean what you were saying," and he said, "Sean, jiu-jitsu does work, doesn't it?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" And he said he was in a friend's party, 6-year-old little boy, Ellis, and someone come up to him, tried to throw a punch at him. This like escalated. He parried both punches, picked him up, done a double leg takedown, landed on top of him in a mount, and then just the lad was like underneath, like trying to move, and Ellis had just diffused the situation
Yeah.
subconsciously without even like realizing he was in an altercation, and then had the ability to diffuse it.
Yeah.
And without it being like boxing and kickboxing,
Yeah.
you're not teaching them how to inflict impact where you can injure other people and then end up, you know what I mean? When you're older, that's charges, isn't it? Like you can end up in a prison cell by doing stuff like that. But if you can diffuse it and you can restrain someone to the point of them not being able to move, that's the ultimate way of being able to diffuse a situation without being able to get hurt in yourself. And
Yeah.
I think it's mental that we aren't teaching that to kids.
Yeah. I think there's still a lack of knowledge in the general kind of community about what jiu-jitsu is, because
Yeah.
there has been so many movies, martial arts films, so much kind of violence in that way. But actually, jiu-jitsu, whilst it's not necessarily the gentle art, so to speak, it's about that mindset control. It's about diffusing situations. It's about being able to maneuver so that people don't get hurt. Obviously, that's always the aim. Yeah.
I think it's like that we're still in the same branded with the same brushes like taekwondo and judo and stuff, aren't they? Because my nan still asks me, "How's your karate doing?" Like she still asks
Oh,
me that.
do you know what? I had a call from my dad. I speak to him regularly. I see him every now and again, and he actually asked me, "Oh, how's jiu-jitsu going?" rather than my exercising. So I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
everyone's changing. We're
That's it,
getting
isn't it?
there. We're getting there,
I
Sean.
think the UFC's done a lot of it to get the understanding of jiu-jitsu, because it's one of the skills you need in the UFC, and everyone needs a baseline level of it, but we're still tarnished with the same brush as the other martial arts. So I think that's why in the school, when I'd pitched to go to my kid's school, and she said, "We've already got like a judo program. Is that not the same thing?" So I think it's just getting there. It's
Yeah.
getting it out there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Sean, this has been an absolute pleasure and an inspiration, talking and listening to your story. How can people follow the journey of Resilience Jiu Jitsu?
Just probably the Instagram page. I don't have like a personal page or whatever and post stuff on there. I just put everything through the gym page. So it's resilience.jiu-jitsu, and we have everything on there. So yeah, just give that a follow.
Absolutely. Keep growing, keep doing all that good work. I wish you all the success, and
Thank you very
look
much.
forward to connecting with you at some point very soon.
Definitely. Thanks for having me on today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for getting this far and listening to Sean's incredible story. Please go and like and subscribe on every platform, as well as following resilience.jiu-jitsu on Instagram. Thank you for telling your friends about the show. And as soon as this episode ends, go and do all those things. Anyway, thank you again for listening. Catch you on the next episode of the Jiu Jitsu Lou podcast.